This is me pitching a ball that's impossible to hit, and I engineered it out of necessity because I'm facing off against the world's greatest wiffle ball players. Now, wiffle ball is the popular backyard version of baseball here in America. What makes it really interesting is the balls have these holes on one side, which means they can curve like crazy. But how does that work? And how do baseballs, or really balls from any sport, actually curve through the air for that matter?
Spin.
So today we're gonna test our way to find an answer to that question. And since I grew up playing countless hours of wiffle ball myself, I'm gonna revive a lifelong dream of going head to head against the pros. And I don't wanna give too much away, but I might have had to rely on my engineering skills to level the playing field. Now, the whole idea for this journey of discovery started with an impromptu visit to my childhood home in Brea, California. Last time I lived here was over 2 decades ago, so I'm just gonna go ambush him. I want a tour.
Hey,
what's up? I'm Mark. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I used to live here.
Kinda.
Oh, word got out. So after meeting the whole family, they were kind enough to let me take a walk down memory lane. Oh my gosh. If these walls could talk, you know? I used to keep my micro machines right in this little cabinet here. Up there on the roof is where me and Scott Glacier used to throw water balloons on my sister and her friends sunbathing down here.
Water balloon?
That's an option for you kids. I also took the chance to confess that all the holes in their metal shed were errant shots from a homemade crossbow I fashioned in 8th grade. There was a target. I wasn't very good at it, apparently. But what made me most happy to hear is how all the neighborhood kids still played out front all the time. Because
That's
while
nice.
that may look like just a street to some, for us it was a soccer, hockey, basketball, and baseball stadium where long forgotten neighborhood legends were born.
And when I lived, it was a skate park, bro. We had the fucking ramps and shit and jumps and whatnot.
Where each game always
shit was
felt
hard.
so big, and the only thing that could stop us was when the streetlights came on, signaling it was time to go home for dinner. And to my absolute delight, they let me hop in the game. I'm gonna go ahead and call it right out of the gate. And look, I'm not gonna say it myself. Ah! But were there some murmurs that Mark, the long ball legend Rober, had returned? I'm not gonna deny it. It's just like old times. This is great. Even at the mound, I was still slinging lasers.
Still
got it. And as invigorating as this was, it did make me question if I'd missed out on my true calling as a professional wiffle ball player. Because you should know, there are actually professional wiffle ball players. And while we share a very similar origin story, our histories split paths when they kept the dream alive and turned those adolescent visions of grandeur into the world's first pro wiffle ball league.
What
In
is
fact,
that?
This is Kyle as an 11-year-old, and now 14 years later as the league founder and commissioner. He told me every year starting in spring, 8 teams compete in a 4-month season, with players traveling from all over the country. There's a draft, playoff, a World Series, and of course for 14 years they've tracked every possible stat that is possibly trackable. As you'd expect, there's heated team rivalries and league legends like Jimmy Norp, aka the Norpedo, who's considered by many to be the best pitching, hitting dual threat in the league, and as the reigning back-to-back World Series champ, it's easy to see why. None of them get paid to play, so their truest compensation is the sheer thrill of victory in this game that has united them since childhood. He also told me they'd be playing in Oklahoma right around the time I'd be traveling through. I was finally gonna get my chance to play under the lights in front of an actual crowd, which meant it was time for the long ball legend to refer to himself in the third person and make his professional debut. And I was playing it cool, but right out of the gate, I spotted the unmistakable flowing hair. He's the best.
Back-to-back champ in the house right here.
Of Jimmy, Captain Clutch North. This was definitely the big league.
So the whole difference is that
team.
We like to do 3v3.
So we divided up into teams, and it was game on.
All right, here you go.
But what's the goal though?
Kyle connected early to get one man on, so it was over to the Red Baron to make it 2.
Oh yeah, Baron.
Nice. And that made it my turn. But I wasn't here to waste time just getting on bases.
Chad, don't you do a home run every time though?
I'm gonna go ahead and do it.
Calling the shot.
Over the green monster. With the street lights of my youth finally being replaced with the stadium lights I'd always dreamed of, this was my moment.
Uh-oh.
feels impossible to hit. Now, just like in baseball, in wiffle ball you get 4 balls and 3 strikes. And it's a strike if it hits anywhere on the rectangular pipes, or more embarrassingly, the metal plate in the middle. I'm sorry, team. And with the crowd visibly unimpressed, I swapped with Kyle to pinch run at second base.
Oh yeah, I boogie, I dance.
No! Everywhere I go, I'm getting out. So we had 2 outs, but now that I'd cleared the cobwebs out, I could just sense things were about to change.
Wait, is he gonna swing? Is he gonna swing? I don't get it.
I think we all know I was always more of a pitcher anyways. It was time to give these boys a little taste of old school suburban California street ball. Because Jimmy Norp's reign on Mount Olympus had come to an end. Oh, whoops. Do you take a base on that?
Wait, body hit, you get a base?
And with that absolute dinger to center field, Captain Clutch had struck again.
If somebody catches it without touching the ground, is it insta out for everybody who's not on a base?
Much love, Felix, and fuck you, chat xQc.
That's witchcraft! And look, I'm not proud of my performance, but in
just
my
the batter.
defense, unlike the West Coast ball I grew up playing, in the pros, as you can see here, these pitches are moving 10 feet left to right. It's like the ball had propellers, and it makes it nearly impossible to figure out if it's a pitch you should swing at, or a pitch you should duck from, or perhaps both. How did he do that? And the rest of the game, unfortunately, was just more of the same. Although I am proud to say, in the 3rd inning, I finally got on base. And so despite all my best efforts, they narrowly edged us out for the win. This was not how it was supposed to happen. It was gonna be a long plane ride home, but truthfully, a plan was already forming in my head to science the crud out of this and use my engineering abilities to level the playing field. And step 1 was to fly Jimmy and Kyle out to Crunch Labs to study.
A part of me really wishes that baseball was fun to watch or play. I'd be interested in baseball.
Exactly how they can curve a ball as much as they do.
But it's so boring.
And after making a bunch of observations and gathering a bunch of data myself, I then marched them straight over to the home of the San Francisco Giants, because they're regarded as the team with the most advanced pitcher development program in all of Major League Baseball.
I'll take your word for it, I'll take your word for it then.
Wow, this feels pretty big. And right out of the gate, I was incredibly relieved to see their elite players and coaches struggling against the Norpedo just as much as I did. But then it was into the clubhouse.
Wait, who are these guys?
Of the trip to meet with Brian Bannister, whose deep understanding of the science behind a spinning baseball is sort of their secret sauce for
pros.
All these great pitchers. And he's got the hardware to
waffle
show for it.
When you use these concepts, you win World Series.
And so after that, I was feeling pretty good about my handle on how exactly they were making the ball
MLB,
curve.
okay.
But as final confirmation on my suspicions, we also met up with the Stanford baseball team to run one last test with a normal baseball versus an identical one that was just missing the seam. And as a further point of indication, I'm happy to report their nationally ranked batters also fell victim to Kyle and the Norpedo.
Wait.
And so after my extensive data collection, research, and interviews, here's the answer as to how any sort of ball curves through the air. And it starts with a riddle. Let's say you're an astronaut on the space station. You go out for a spacewalk to fix a solar panel with your big wrench, and as you're heading out, you get distracted by the view and miss grabbing the handle. And now you're very slowly drifting away. What do you do to save yourself?
Breathe backwards.
You might say, well, you just sort of swim your way back. But in zero gravity, as demonstrated here by an actual astronaut, you can flail your arms all you want, but your center of mass won't actually move. All right, so did you think of the answer? The trick is you throw the wrench as fast as possible in the opposite direction, and that will give you just a little push to slowly move you back to the space station. And this makes intuitive sense, right? Like if you're on a skateboard and you throw something heavy to the right, you're gonna move back to the left. Nate! You had one job! Well, this is exactly how rockets move around in space where there's no air. They create a chemical reaction from their fuel to make a lot of tiny wrenches, and they just throw them out of the back really fast, and the rocket naturally has to go the other way, just like you as an astronaut. So that's one thing you need to know.
Wait
And the other is the Coanda effect.
Wait, this is kind of interesting. Wait a minute. Just kidding.
It's that fluids like to
I'm just kidding,
flow
yeah, it's
around the
interesting.
smooth surface. You actually already know this if you've ever noticed how water will flow around a curved spoon.
I think it's
air
interesting.
is also a fluid, and so it curves just like water, as you can see here, because the strings are following with the airflow as it turns the round corner on the frisbee. Okay, so now let's put those two concepts together. From the ball's perspective, air is rushing past on the top side here and curving around really nicely because the rotation of the ball matches great with the airflow. But on the bottom side, they're opposite. So there's sort of a head-on collision with the air rushing by, creating turbulence. That means more air curves around the top, which means more little air wrenches are thrown diagonally down, and as a result, the backspun ball moves diagonally up, just like the astronaut, causing it to curve up. The fancy term for this is the Magnus effect, and big light balls like beach balls are great for demonstrating this effect because they have lots of surface area, so they throw off lots of wrenches, but they're also really light, so the air wrenches have more of an effect. And now that you know this, you know exactly what causes the curve on tennis balls, soccer balls, ping pong balls, record-breaking basketballs, golf balls, and baseballs. With the baseball, the seams help grab even more air wrenches as the ball spins, but they also provide the pitchers a better grip, so they can spin the ball even faster.
So then they choose a direction, and they put spin against the direction, and it goes boom.
Versus smooth ball test confirmed this when the normal baseball with seams was curving so much
wang.
more. By the way, this same principle is how frisbees seem to defy gravity, because air curves over the smooth edge, throwing wrenches down all around, turning it into a freaking jetpack.
Yeah,
Now, having said
boom!
that, you should know that the wiffle ball
Like
is
that,
similar, yet slightly different than all of those. As long as you scuff up the side with the holes, which is something all serious players will do, then by comparison, this side is now much smoother. That means the air has a much easier time curving around like water on a smooth spoon, throwing down the air wrenches, causing the ball to lift towards the smooth side. And sure enough, in high-speed footage, we see that in every case, the ball is curving towards the smooth side.
Yeah, I'm farming. Guys, it's boom. So then it goes hoo hoo. And it's
and away from the holes. So now whenever you see a ball curving, just think of tiny little astronaut wrenches flying off the back of the ball as it spins through the air. And now that I knew their secrets to ball curvature, it was time to use that knowledge to engineer some sweet revenge with an 18-second build montage. And so it was back to Oklahoma with a duffel bag full of surprises, addressed specifically for Jimmy North. But before we get to that, you might have noticed Crunch Labs has a new addition. My backyard. That's because to fight summer brain drain and make this your least boring summer ever, we created Camp Crunch Labs. Now, Camp Crunch Labs is a 12-week virtual summer camp featuring weekly videos with mega experiments.
It is.
That's wicked.
Look at that. Number one.
I took the opportunity of admiring my new gift to avoid making eye contact with the torpedo and his tactics of intimidation. Got a bag of stuff here. Should be a little bit better than last time. Play ball. The rematch was officially on. All right, I'm at the mound.
Let's go.
And word must have spread because an even larger crowd had gathered to watch. Playing with the pros had been my childhood dream, yet my last outing was closer to a nightmare. So I decided to give them a small taste of what they could expect for round 2, and wound up to deliver the hot, steamy appetizer. Dinner is served. Now all I had to do was retrieve and reload the brass slug. Because if you preload a brass cylinder against a spring in a 3D printed ball like this, and then take apart a $1 kitchen timer and harvest the geared mechanism,
it'll go against
then when you
and go down.
multiple hemispheres, you get a 1.5 second delay until this screw rotates and releases a spring-loaded plug, just like an astronaut wrench. And that alters the trajectory in midair, making it impossible to predict where to swing. And as you can see, unpredictability is a pitcher's best friend. Unfortunately, after just 2 strikes, they found my Achilles heel and rendered the ball useless. Which is exactly why you always have a backup plan. Oh, just missed the strikeout. This one used the same kitchen timer geared mechanism, only this time the two wiffle ball hemispheres were preloaded against each other with the spring. So after the 1.5 second delay, your hitting options went from one good one to two bad ones, which was just enough to secure my very first strikeout. Unfortunately, the crafty Norpedo deduced correctly that by simply stepping forward, they could make contact before the ball had time to split.
Wait a minute.
Which meant it was time for the backup plan. The wiffle copter. And you might think now I'm just being a bit cheeky, but I did a thorough reading of the rules and it's a strike if it hits anywhere on the pipe or metal plate above the two legs. But it makes no mention of front or back.
Let's go. Let's go. Exploiting loopholes.
You didn't hit it.
Unfortunately, my smugness was short-lived because you don't become a professional wiffle ball player without a tremendous amount of hand-eye coordination. So with two runners on, it was time to level things up with this 3D printed, triple 10,000 RPM flywheeled monstrosity of a personal pitching machine, aka the Demogorgon. Now the Demogorgon is calibrated to launch his cruise missiles at just under the 74-mile-per-hour speed limit on
Well,
pitches
that's a
in the
gun,
league.
but okay.
Now, the problem is that kind of speed requires a lot of flowing electrons, and battery power soon became a concern. And that's just not a position you want to find yourself in with Captain Clutch at the plate, sadly giving them the first lead of the game. And I was concerned things would start to get away from me, but thankfully, Jimmy can't take every at-bat. And after a pop-up and a routine catch by the Red Baron, I'd survived the first inning with only one allowed run to show for it. For the first time, I was feeling good about our chances, which meant it was time to show the world I was more than just a pitcher.
How did you even hit that though? That's fucking dumb shit, no?
How is that possible? So it was another strikeout, but then Baron got on base, followed by Kyle with an absolute bomb to center field.
Let's go.
Straight over the green monster, which meant suddenly we were up 1-2. For the first time ever, we were in the lead, and at this rate,
This looks impossible to hit this shit. The fuck?
yeah, I struck out again. But we were still winning. And with the final play of the inning, Baron capitalized on a bad throw to second for a potential inside the park home run. But there's a Major League Wiffle Ball rule where the strike zone doubles as the catcher. So if you don't beat the throw home, then you're out. And heading into the second inning, I was fresh out of batteries, so we had Kyle take them out. And after 2 strikes, they got on base. Or at least they would have if first base didn't go rogue. And now that first base had a taste for freedom, going free range with a top speed of 50 miles per hour, I decided to bring him back after seeing the Norpedo was up next.
Okay.
Because there was plenty more where that came from. But my dreams were crushed when he just norped it out of the park. Oh, come on! Come on! Boo! And now the game was tied, and Jimmy had clearly demonstrated he's a sore winner. On the next play, they hit one deep and were threatening to score again, but I had a short-circuited first base that needed
Oh, of course, another gun, of course, I mean.
And with them ahead 3-2 headed into the bottom of the second, this was the perfect time for my lucky bat.
Okay, dude.
And just as I'd hoped, the increased surface area put me on first base. And with a little teamwork, I scored a run, and we would have kept it going if someone wouldn't have struck out. Baron. Oh my gosh. Okay, fine, me too. So we were headed into the final inning, tied at 3, and we kept Kyle on the mound, even though he said his arm wasn't at full strength. And of course, Captain Clutch took full advantage on the first pitch. So I volunteered to take over pitching duties. The problem was, I had run out of gimmick wiffle balls and gimmick personal pitching machines. But thanks to the power of pneumatics, I hadn't run out of gimmick strike zones, which gave my floater a bit more room to work with. So after getting one out with the generous strike zone, some good old-fashioned hustle got us the second. But with Jimmy at bat and knowing what was at stake, one of their players disconnected the airline, which honestly felt a little like cheating, but I took the high road and let it slide. This time, I was really out of tricks. It was just me versus Captain Clutch Norp himself, mano a mano. And on my first pitch, I got him on the delayed riser. My second pitch, got him with my modified slider.
Chat, if pros can even hit those
If I was
balls.
really going to do this, I would need to rely on everything I had learned on this journey of discovery.
Why don't they put the real
And
sport on
that
it?
was strike 3. I had struck out the world's greatest wiffle ball player. And earning that subtle nod of mutual respect from the Norpedo sort of felt like a Michael passing the torch to
54
Kobe type of
xQc
moment. And down by 1 headed into our final at bat, it lasted about as long as it took to immediately strike me out again. That wasn't cool.
Why not let the ball
The
hit
game
him?
wasn't over yet, but instead of the 2 runs we needed to win, we quickly got 2 outs. But Barron kept our hopes alive with the base hit. And by some absolute miracle, I finally got a real hit fair and square. Oh yeah, go Mark!
Well, is he gonna
Which
run
put
it?
me and Barron on second and third. Let's go!
But doesn't he have to touch the thing?
So it all came down to Kyle. And as soon as I saw contact, I knew it wasn't enough to clear the wall. So I started my mad dash with my sights set on home plate. It was a risky move, but I knew it would mean victory for our team. With Jimmy taking the cutoff at second, the gauntlet was thrown. His arm versus my leg.
Okay, dude,
No
all the-
more tricks.
Okay,
Okay, well maybe
dude.
just one more trick. With a blast of air at 100 PSI, their catcher was nowhere to be found, clearing my triumphant return to that most beautiful of white rubber pentagons.
Interesting.
As we celebrated the game, it almost felt like
Chat,
at any moment the
Chat,
streetlights would
no
come
joke
on,
with that. No,
signaling
Chat, I kind of enjoyed learning about the air on the balls.
time to head home for dinner. And I was reminded of a truth it feels like Jimmy and Kyle and all of their buddies have never lost sight of. Finding something you're truly passionate about that brings you joy is one of life's most lovely gifts.
Could you make me some thanks
And
when
if
you
you're
get
lucky
the
enough to have
chance?
found it, you should
Cheers, mate.
protect and cherish it like your most prized possession. Have you ever seen a firewood chopping robot? Well, now you have. And while he can chop more than just
When you think of the modeling industry, the first thing you
Try
think of
hard.
I'm not watching that. Oh, dude! My contraption is gonna break. Chat, I gotta figure out a way to make this thing actually work.
Feeling down, can't seem to shake it.